Ed Cardema on the didge, and Gabriel Harris on the percussion.
That was amazing, amazing. So everybody back in the vicinity of their bodies, somewhere near their bodies, good. I just wanted to say that for our welcome man, Frank had a big birthday this week. And so anybody that is a March baby, you just raise your hand for us. Look at all you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. And we do have a birthday present for you. At the practitioner table, there is a spiritual checkup sheet where you can fill it out, and then there's a list of practitioners on the back that you can take it to, and you can have a spiritual checkup for your birthday for free. So how sweet is that? So thank you, practitioners. I'd like to, at this point, welcome anyone who is here for the first time or back after a long time. We have people from the membership team right here, and they have packets for you about our center. And if you fill out this blue card in the packet and give it back to one of these lovelies, then you get this free book. And it's a very readable book about our philosophy, How to Speak Science of Mind. So if anyone is here for the first time or back after a long time and you want current information, just raise your hand and you'll get something in it. There's one right there. Yay. There's another one right there. One in the back. Very good. And one in the middle. And more in the back. See? Yay. Welcome. I'm very happy to have you here today. So I'm Reverend Karyl Huntley. I'm the senior minister here. And this is our theme for the whole year of 2017. We are living by spiritual values. And often I have people who want to share about how this theme is working for them. We don't have anybody this week, but I say it to encourage all of you to share with me how your values work is working. Because it should be changing your life for the better, or you're just here for entertainment. So I hope it's changing your life for the better. Our March theme is this right here: education and continuous improvement. Now that may seem exhausting, but a couple of weeks ago I gave a talk about how to be continually in improvement and not be exhausted. So that's available to you if you would want it. It's also online. But we're here. We're here. So there must be some more improvement to do, because it is not the nature of spirit to just stagnate. It's not the nature of spirit to just hang around. It's the nature of spirit to increase, enhance, move forward in an orderly sequence of growth, to quote our Troward. So there's a reason why we're all still here, and that is improvement for each and every one of us. So each week, we have a set of values that will be the ones that I talk about, and suggested values for you, although you might come up with something else that is more important than these. The first one today is courage. Now I know whenever you see that you think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to be brave about something. And yes, you are. We all are going to need to be brave about something today, but it'll turn out really good in the end, okay? Are you with me? Okay, so take a deep breath, and then we'll show the next one, which is forgiveness. Oh my goodness. So if we don't do this value well, if we stay stuck in unforgiveness, we become tied in knots on the inside. So forgiveness is really for ourselves, not for the one that we're forgiving or for the situation we're forgiving. It is really for ourselves. And then the last one is authenticity. And authenticity is really how to be true to ourselves first. And then if we're true to ourselves, as the great author said, we can be true to everyone. So I want to draw your attention to the wonderful Marsha Dawson altar, where she brings half her house every single time. And it's so springy and so beautiful, with so many Buddhas that are so, they speak to me of quiet courage and easy forgiveness and deep authenticity. So Marsha, thank you so much for this beautiful altar. So my talk title today is "The Truth Shall Set You Free." And this, of course, isn't that just so sweet? That's a wonderful image there. It comes from the Bible, of course, but also there is a part in the Science of Mind textbook where Ernest Holmes talks about this as well. And it's in the very first chapter of the book. He writes, "Nature seems to await our comprehension of her, and since she is governed by immutable laws, the ignorance of which excuses no one from their effects, the bondage of humanity must be a result of our ignorance of the true nature of reality. Through experience, each one of us learns what is really good and satisfying, what is truly worthwhile. As we learn the truth will automatically free us." So this is a common idea in just about all religions, that the truth will set us free. So today I'm talking about mostly a truth about us, but us in the you and me. Not about us collectively necessarily, but a truth in you and a truth in me. And first of all, I want to talk about a step down from the capital T truth, which are facts, stuff that happened, or actual things that we went through, or actual ways of being that we are that don't please us. Those things that are true about us, which we don't want other people to see. And in fact, it's painful enough that we don't want to look at it ourselves. So we have shut off that place. And as far as the theme for the month, continuous improvement, there's no chance of continuous improvement in that particular place because we don't go there. We judge ourselves for something and then we try to hide it. I cannot be the only one for which this is true. Right? Come on, help me out here. Okay, a few nods. Okay, we've got a few people. So there's a relatively new author, Brene Brown, that is really known for her work in vulnerability, the power of vulnerability. She's a researcher and a storyteller, and I first learned of her in a TED Talk, which I'm going to send out to you. That's why we want your information, by the way, on these blue cards, because I send out 2 letters every week, one as an invitation and one as a recap. So the recap will have a connection, a link to the TED Talk. So one of the things that Brene Brown says is that vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Let me say that again. Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. And I think that's one of the things we're afraid of when we disclose something that is painful about ourselves or unattractive about ourselves. This vulnerability makes us feel weak, but that actually is not true. It frees us, and when we're free, we're powerful. Another thing that Brene Brown says is, you better be able to tell the truth about who you are, where you come from, and what you're up against, and like yourself in the process of telling that truth, because our sense of worthiness lives inside this story. So to be able to say, yes, this is me, this is what happened, this is what I'm up against. These are my life lessons. This is what I'm working on. And I'm opening myself to you, so maybe if I don't see it, you can gently point it out to me, something along those lines. Now, what I want to say is you don't have to do this for everyone. Not everyone. And you don't have to do it all the time. But what is important is that you do it all the time for yourself. That you recognize in yourself when you are tiptoeing up to one of those places that is not attractive for you. Each one of us here, each one of us out there, each one of us across the world has unspeakable hurts and disappointments. that we have caused ourselves. And that's what causes those places that need courage even to look at. Each one of us has parts of ourselves that are reactionary, defended, judged, unskilled. We may know ourselves to be selfish, quick-tempered, fearful, stuck, and unskilled in some very important life skill. And we try to hide that. Especially, I think we try to hide it in science of mind when we're told that we're perfect, whole, and complete. And so if there is something that is unattractive or something that is unskilled or something that we clearly are not good at, or we are we get inflamed instantly, then we really try to hide that because it is not attractive to metaphysicians. But usually those traits are very understandable when our story is understood and when it's shared. There's a reason why we have those reactionary things. In every life where there is unspeakable distress, something started it. We had an abusive parent. We had a tragedy at an early age. We had not enough of something early on. It's said that if we knew each other's stories, we would always be in infinite compassion. Can you think about that? Can you remember somebody that really, really made you angry, and then somehow the story was blurted out, and you had this immediate sense of compassion because you understood them? And that is absolutely true for all of us. So it takes courage to look at our own shortcomings. And it takes willingness to be vulnerable. It takes an effort to forgive and an ongoing authenticity to continuously improve. But you know what? One of the things that Brené Brown says is that vulnerability is really, really good for relationships. It's really good for friendships. It's really good for neighbors. And if it's good for us individually, one-on-one, if we model this personally, guess what? Governments might ultimately become vulnerable with each other. Now, I know that that feels like amazing to contemplate, but if you remember a time when you were vulnerable in your own life, or when someone was vulnerable around you, this next quote by Brené Brown will strike you as true, and that is, the intention and outcome of vulnerability is trust, intimacy, and connection. Isn't that true? The ultimate intention and outcome of vulnerability is trust, intimacy, and connection. And when we have trust, intimacy, and connection, we're healed. We're healed one unto another. And we have world peace between us. We have world peace one-on-one. And when two people can experience world peace between them, it's possible between every person. So, let's get to the lesson here, which is to own our own story. We've got a little yellow ducky and a bunch of little black duckies. So, to own our own story is, first of all, to tell the truth about who we are. And to find someone that is absolutely safe that you can tell this to. Now, this is actually the power of healthy Catholicism, is to go into confession where I wasn't a Catholic, but I've heard that it works. That when you go into confession and you share something that is really hard for you, and you are essentially forgiven after you do those things, novenas, Hail Marys, that stuff, then when you do those things and you're forgiven, then you have that free feeling, right? We have something quite like that. We have practitioners. We have practitioners who are so safe. They are the safest listeners that you will ever have. And you can go to them and you can say, all right, I've got something I've got to share. I hate it. And they will just open, and help you hold it and then reframe it for you so you can forgive yourself, and this whole lesson will make sense. That you have courage, forgiveness, and authenticity and freedom. Okay? So keep them busy after the service. Now, this next one about owning our story is really important for metaphysicians, and that is to hold imperfection and perfection comfortably together. So what happens is we have facts that are about our relative human nature. Those facts are true with a little t. They're a true thing that happened. They're a true thing that we participated in. And it resulted in us having unskilled behavior. And that unskilled behavior turns out to not be perfect. And so in our human relative condition, we are imperfect. We have opportunities for improvement. Are you with me on this? Excellent. Because in our divine nature, where we are absolutely one with God, and we never, ever, ever, ever have been separate. We have never been separate. We have never taken off our divine nature. Our divine nature, with the capital T truth, is absolutely perfect. Perfect, whole, and complete. And we are both. That's the mystery. We are both. And being able to hold both the imperfection of the relative human nature and the perfection of the absolute divine nature is a part of the sort of sophistication and wisdom of being a healthy metaphysician. Now, another piece of this is that in the teaching, you are told to turn away from the condition. If we turn away from the condition of unskilled behavior and refuse to look at it, it will not be healed. So that is not what that directive is from Ernest Holmes, turn away from the condition. What it really means is to turn toward the truth with a capital T. Turn toward the truth and recognize that as a divine being, I am perfect, whole, and complete, and safe. And it's okay for me to be vulnerable and to work through these human lessons because I am divinely guided, I am perfect, I am loved by God, I am surrounded by divine support, and nothing bad can ultimately happen to me. People can be mad at you. That's one of the things that I don't like at all. But ultimately, it doesn't hurt you. You're still perfect, whole, and complete. Okay? We got that? Do you understand it? Now we have to just live it, okay? I'm working on this too, you'll see. So the next one is identify the fables that we surmounted. Every family has mottos that don't serve the children. Like, good little boys and little girls behave in a particular way. So, you know that my mom divorced my dad when I was a baby, when I was 1.5. And in my childhood, my grandmother lived with us. And my grandmother really raised me because my mom was working. So when I was naughty, she started out by calling me by my first 2 names, Carol Lynn. Carol Lynn! And then if she really didn't like what I was doing, she would call me by my last name as well. And it would be like, Carol Lynn Huntley. Because that was my father's name. I never, ever doubted that I was my father's child, the absent parent, when I was naughty. So, you can imagine some of the lessons that unfolded for me. Another thing but I'm sure that she did this. You know, this is the same grandmother that I had the Afghan on the altar last week. I loved Grammy. But, and I know she thought that calling me Carolyn Huntley to control me was better than hitting me. You know, I wasn't spanked. So I didn't have that to undo. But I had this judgment against my dad. And another thing that my grandmother would do would be she would tell me how I was feeling. She would say, usually, "You're not angry. You're not sad." Well, that was very confusing to a 5-year-old when I was angry and I was sad. But she didn't want me to be angry and sad. So she pronounced me not angry and sad. So being angry and sad really was not okay with her. Again, out of the best of intentions. So I'm telling you that this one here, this one about surmounting fables, is a part of every child's learning as they grow into adulthood and go from the facts of their being raised out of the very best that the parents can do. The very best. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I'm really going to screw up my child today." Nobody does that. But to have that be the setup for a lot of lessons for me, that was true. And lastly, hold ourselves and our cast of characters in compassion. So, for Grammy, mostly, I think about her Afghan and how I sleep under it every single night. I brought a lot of books for the book sale, but I kept one that had her name in it from 1917. It was a truth book. And from early in the truth movement. So she was doing the best she could the whole time. So everybody did. All of your people did the very best they could. And so working through forgiveness in your own authenticity is extremely important. So this is how we own our own story. So now coming to the truth. The truth, first of all, is the facts about our relative human condition and the capital T truth about our divine absolute condition. So when we know both of these things, it will set us free. So I don't like to deliver bad news. I don't like to be angry and I don't like to be sad. But I went through 2 divorces where I recognized that I was angry and sad. And when I recognized that I was angry and sad, and probably my husband, number 1 and number 2, I was able to say, this isn't working. And as hard as it was to express anger and sadness, I felt free when I did it. That was the fact of me. And I felt like I was on top of a mountain when I finally said it. The truth develops and grows. When we find a little t truth, a bigger structure is revealed. So when I recognized that I was in an unhappy marriage number 1 and an unhappy marriage number 2, it led to a great deal of self-examination, a great deal of authenticity, a great deal about what my part was in this, a great deal about what I could offer in a relationship, a great deal about being a better parent, and ultimately getting to a big T truth. Knowing myself deeper and giving myself more compassion, and when I gave myself more compassion, I had more compassion for others. So telling the truth, big T truth, heals the world. So another bit from the Science of Mind textbook is our thought can bring out a condition as perfect as we can conceive. Therefore, the one whose thought is the most godlike, that is, the truest, the highest, the most noble, the most complete, the most peaceful, will be the best healer. When thought reaches a higher degree of perfection, as the race consciousness unfolds and evolves, it will bring out a still greater development of life than we know now. What this essentially says is that every single person's healing affects every other person's potential healing. When each one of us comes to the big T truth, we are making it more available for other people. Then finally, the truth balances us. When we are enslaved and tormented by the bondage of living a lie, we are not balanced. And this is the perfect day, really, for talking about balance, because at 3:28 a.m. tomorrow morning is the spring equinox. That is the moment that the day and the night are exactly equal. It is one of the two times in our calendar when we have the ability to say, I replicate the nature of nature herself. And so all the universe is available to you right now for doing this work. We have the practitioners that'll help you dive deep, and then we have the natural phenomenon of the equinox to balance us. So letting go of untrue beliefs and approximating, getting closer and closer and closer to the perfection of God, that balances us, and it encourages our authenticity. So last week, I quoted from this little book, The Gardener's Way. This is a day book of things that happen in the garden, and it's very spiritual, and it's also where I keep my notes about what's happening in my garden. This is by Maurice Maeterlinck. It's a quote, and it's from an essay called The News of Spring. The News of Spring. So spring starts, at 3:28 a.m. tomorrow. It pushes aside the branches, fondles with its breath the olive tree that quivers with a silver smile, polishes the glossy grass, rouses the corollas that were not asleep, recalls the birds that had never left, encourages the bees that were workers without ceasing, and then, seeing, like God, that all is well in spotless Eden, it rests for a moment on the ledge of a terrace where the orange tree grows with regular flowers. And with a small sigh, small print and I'm tearing up here, okay. It casts a last look over its labor of joy and entrusts it to the sun. That's the spring. Casts a last look on its labor of joy. So, we all are a labor of joy for God. God created us in joy. God created us in wonder, in a way that can God can look at us and say, this is a wonderful, wonderful being. This is a wonderful person. And looks upon us with absolute joy. I think despite the machinations that we go through, I don't think that makes God sad at all. It's like, oh my goodness, there the little one is doing that. I love them so much. So we are a labor of joy for God. And when we get that everybody is a labor of joy for God, then we come into a lovely balance with our ability to create, a lovely balance with our ability to enjoy, a lovely balance with our ability to be courageous, forgiving, and authentic. And that is exactly what our work is today on this very last few moments of winter before spring arrives in the morning. Thank you. courage, forgiveness, and authenticity. For the inner work, would the practitioners please surround the room now? So look at this amazing, amazing group. There's a practitioner meeting today, so we got all the troops ready to support and love you through whatever it is that you are going through. So let me invite you within. As this container is made, and as we fill our hearts with courage, that is a French word that means heart. So our strong heart, our strong, courageous heart is working right now, sitting in our strong, courageous heart. We have that fortitude to look into the past and look clearly at a memory that was brought to us today. A memory of sadness or of anger. A memory where we began our unskilled path. And with great, great, great understanding, we look at that situation, the younger version of us that is in that situation, and anyone else that might be around, anyone else that is there. And with that courage of our heart, we blanket this entire scene with absolute love and know that it is a labor of joy for God, so it might as well be a labor of forgiveness for us. And so giving up any hope of a better past and simply saying, this happened and I bless it, we are able to comfort that younger version of us and whisper in that young one's ear, this is only the beginning of a great life lesson. You evolve and move into a person of peace, poise, and power, not in spite of this, but because of it. I bless you and I am with you. I am your older self and I will be with you the entire way. And so through forgiveness, through authentically facing an issue of our past, we improve. We improve in our human self, approaching that divinity that is always perfect, whole, and complete. And so it is. The practitioners can take their seats.